Welcome to Comfort and Growth, the podcast for people who are passionate about productivity and personal growth. And I have with us one of the most productive people I know, Juliana Chan.
Hello everyone, I'm Juliana. Nice to be here. Thank you, Crystal.
So Juliana, I am always so happy when I meet you because you are a fellow woman who I feel like we have so much in common. We are both entrepreneurs. We both have been in academia. Wow, the list goes on. And we are also LinkedIn top voices.
And mummies.
Yes, and mummies as well. And we actually met through LinkedIn, where we were both awarded this top voice.
This was the inaugural year.
Yes.
When they did this inaugural LinkedIn top voice for Singapore.
Yeah.
And there were 16 of us, but you know who's the most VIP of the list, right?
I know you're going to say.
Prime Minister.
Yes, Prime Minister.
Lim-Lange.
Exactly.
We are BFFs now. 16 of us.
You know, it's so funny because the day the list came out, literally like out of the 16 people, 15 of us were posting like, we're on the list with Lim-Lange. But then I was like, Juliana, I don't think he's posting like, wow, I'm on the list with Krista.
I don't think he knows he's on the list.
I don't think he even knows that he's on the list. Anyway, if you are from Lim-Lange's media team, please inform him that he is also a LinkedIn top voice.
Like the both of us.
Yay, special community. Okay, but I wanted to invite you on our podcast today as somebody who I really admire professionally, personally.
Crystal, the feeling is mutual. I admire you greatly. That's why I want to be here today. I love your podcast. And so I'll do my best.
Your half speed is my 2x, I'm sure.
No.
Jules, do you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your story?
I know this question was going to come up, so I prepared like a good scientist.
Yes.
And I'm going to do so in 7 words.
Okay.
Because,
I love
productivity, efficiency. So in 7 words, I'm going to tell you who I am. And that would be serious scientist, turned, very cool, media entrepreneur.
Oh.
You want to try that in 7 words on your own, on yourself?
Accidental investment banker turned accidental educator.
Coach. Expert.
Yeah, expert.
So there you go. So you can summarize yourself in 7 words.
That was a great exercise.
Yes.
Is that what you do with your clients as well?
I think I do that. Yes.
Yes.
Because I have this community that I call Find Your Superpower, and the reason why I call it Find Your Superpower, singular tense, not superpowers, is that many of us want to describe ourselves as multitaskers. We do this, we do that, and many things. But sometimes it kind of dilutes our brand.
Yes.
And people do not know how to properly label us or contextualize us.
I think you're so spot on with that. In fact, when I work with Americans in particular, they are very good at distilling whatever they stand for into like one simple, succinct concept because less is more.
Yes. And when I meet someone for the first time, there's 100 people in the room, and I'm trying my best to put a word or put a tag to everyone. And then you give me 3 tags.
Yes.
I get lost.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I cannot decide, what or who you are.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So maybe if we double click a little bit more on your journey, I know that you were from Cambridge as well as from MIT.
Yes, my alma maters.
Yes. So you left Singapore at a young age.
My time in the UK was very informative when I left at 18.
Yep.
And then I went to Boston at 21 for another 5 years.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where to begin because the first thing I learned when I was 18 is how to look after myself.
Yes.
So as much as we have a very privileged, existence in Singapore, once you're overseas on your own, doing your own laundry, managing currency exchange and cooking, I think I really grew up.
For sure.
Immediately overnight. And I think you spend time overseas, you know what I'm talking about.
Left at 18 too for UK.
Getting to understand for the first time what it feels like to be a minority. And for me to be known not as Juliana Chan, which I am, but that Chinese girl from Singapore.
Yes.
So then I learned how to speak up because they're not going to assume I know what I'm talking. I need to prove to them what I was made of. And it was in Boston, Crystal, that I found my voice.
Tell me about when was that moment?
It was almost in the first 3 months. See, in the UK, where I was in Cambridge, it is a very aristocratic, a very class-based system. Being a foreigner from Asia, I was probably at the bottom of the pecking order.
Yeah.
The moment I went to Boston, I felt like me because one thing I love about the Americans, they have many flaws, but they have many, many strong points.
Yes.
Is that they encourage everyone to speak up.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. My PhD advisor, he's won lots of prizes. I still call him Bob. There was once that I took a pass-fail course in MIT Sloan.
Yeah.
So this is the MBA school, which is
Yeah.
a good one. And I still remember in class, I'm this graduate student, and the professor asked a question, and all the hands went up. There was a bit of a cognitive dissonance for me because I spent many years in school never raising my hand.
Yes.
And then suddenly everyone's hand was raised and not mine. And the moment he called on anyone, they would just flow.
Yeah.
And the funny part, Crystal, is that their answer could be completely wrong. And they will still be so confident, and you'll be clapping your hands like, that sounds
good.
like poetry. I just really, really admire their confidence.
It's that reality distortion filter.
Yeah, and imagine if you can combine like substance with style.
Yes.
Imagine if you actually knew what you were talking about.
Yes.
And you actually spoke up. It would be a lethal combination. It'd
Well,
be
that's
perfect.
the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the trick, isn't it? Because like we see people who are successful today, and they are the ones that, I mean, of course, you need to know your stuff. You need to
Right.
deliver the results. So that's a given.
Sure.
Right? But it's half of that is doing the work, and the other half is really about the perception of you.
There's a very popular YouTube class by an MIT professor. I think there's millions of views. He basically goes, there are 3 things that we need to teach our children
Yes.
before we let them out into the world. And it is, number 1 is how to speak,
Yes.
how to write, and knowledge in that order. So we need to learn how to
interesting.
speak first, how to write, and then actually all the knowledge that comes with your degree.
Right.
So the sad thing is that when I came back as a professor, I was actually an assistant professor for 5 years. I feel we teach our students all these 3 things, of course, but in the reverse order.
Yes.
So it's knowledge first, maybe how to write your thesis, your essays, and then last but not least, how to speak.
Yes.
When I think it's actually should be the other way around.
Yes, and I think you've hit on something that is really like a raw nerve for a lot of my followers. They write to me and they say, why is it so hard for us Asians to speak about ourselves? You're married to an American. I'm sure you've observed differences in culture. But generally in Asia, I feel like the conditioning we had since young is that, it's like egotistical to talk about yourself. It's arrogant. It's like, empty vessels make the most noise. Or it's like, in Singapore terms, it's like, talk so big.
Yeah.
It's like if people talk, and they're bold with their words, they get known as talkers. But then for me, I think like, wow, one of the boldest talkers was Lee Kuan Yew.
Exactly.
He was so bold. He would put out this grand vision, but nobody could accuse him of being an empty vessel, right?
He only could get this far because he was able to articulate all of his amazing ideas and convince and persuade everyone to listen to him from all walks of life.
Absolutely.
With some without any education to very, very educated elite populations.
Absolutely.
I think it is in my family was much of children are seen, not heard. Do you understand?
Yes.
So like, you
British
kind of,
as well.
Yeah, you kind of, be a good kid, eat your dinner, go to sleep, go and do your homework, get good grades. But there's none of that objection, that personality,
That
debate or that, problems. So imagine this, my parents worked really hard. They didn't go to college. My mom worked every day except Christmas and Chinese New Year. So 363 days a year I don't see my mom. She left work after I went to school and came back after I fell asleep. So there's no time to actually have those kind of conversations. And even if we did, it was very short. It wasn't like, Mom, I've got lots of problems. You couldn't just dump on her either. So there was much of that. If you had something to say, it better be something good.
Right.
I felt that I had to be the perfect child. So I think I overcompensated and I did very well in my school, but I was very quiet. Crystal, you must understand. I still remember my discipline mistress in high school, secondary school. She said, Juliana, I didn't know you were so smart, because she saw me get my, I was top of my school, and she's, I didn't know you were so smart because I've never heard you speak before. So I think I was very repressed and very quiet and I kind of dimmed my light, diminished myself for the very much first part of my life, honestly speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why culture is so important, right? Because I'm not talking about just Asian culture, but like family culture, you know, the messages you hear from people around you, you're the sum average total of people around you. And then when you shift it to MIT, then immediately like you absorb all this and you're different.
I changed. Like, I know why some people, you know, when they move overseas and they become a very different person. I've seen that. It's because they all that, you know, that shackles or that they were used to, they just took it all off. And they said, you know, I'm free. I'm just gonna, you know, open the kimono and be who I really am. Yeah.
I want to pivot slightly. I'm sure as a coach to so many people, and you coach lots of people on LinkedIn on how to find their voice, etc. Imagine that you have a client that comes to you and shares what you just did. Like, you know, I have all this childhood conditioning and all of this that make it very difficult for me to speak up. What would you advise them?
Oh, so you're talking about, you know, limiting beliefs and success blocks. I think that as much as I have clients just for LinkedIn communications, a lot of the work that I do actually is quite deep. I don't have the formal training as a psychologist, but I have, through my own experience, gone through these journeys. So I only show up in the capacity of a kind of a person who has gone before.
Yes.
So many times I help them to reframe those thoughts. So like nobody's going to read what I write on LinkedIn. I reframe it to, you know, everybody is curious to know what I have to share on LinkedIn.
Right. Love it.
Or, you know, sometimes people are afraid of what will happen. So strangely enough, Crystal, many people are afraid of success. I don't know if it sounds a little bit strange, but what will happen if I become a little bit more famous? If more people know me?
Yes.
You know, will I make people angry or jealous? Because this is completely new. So, you know, I'm afraid of the unknown. I'm afraid of things that are out of my control. So I encourage them to see this as, you know, I'm going to only put good stuff out in the world.
Yes.
And in return, the world will reciprocate and return the goodness to me.
And I think you talk about this in your book, right?
Yes.
About the abundance and the reciprocity mindset.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about how the law of reciprocity can make you more successful in life.
So, we just take a very simple case study of LinkedIn. I guess many people lurk on LinkedIn, doom scroll.
Yes.
Maybe look for jobs, kind of check what Crystal's up to, you know, stuff like that. I think they're missing the best part of LinkedIn, which is networking and reciprocity. So if you're not the kind who likes to post, it's okay, you know, not everyone wants to. Maybe leave some comments. Be an active, be a good LinkedIn citizen. And then in return, they will comment on your post. You can even DM them. So do good. Send good value out, and then people will also comment, and you get this little circle of positivity and reciprocity.
But I do have friends as well who are like, if I comment on yours, then other people will ask why I'm not commenting on theirs. Then I will have to comment on everyone's, and then my life will just be so busy and I got no time.
Besides that, I've heard that before, but the other one is I'll show up when I'm ready.
Yes.
Or when I need it.
Yes.
But oftentimes when we are finally ready to say something, it's usually too late.
Yeah.
So I've seen this, and I have clients like that, you know. I need a new job. I've been laid off, retrenched, or I've lost a bunch of my clients. I need to, you know, find new clients. I think we kind of need to show up before you need it.
Yes.
You need
So
to
it's
build
not so
that.
transactional, right?
Oh,
Because
it's desperate.
Yeah,
you get a little
exactly.
bit anxious. Then every post now needs to get you 3 leads.
Yes.
That's not how it works.
it's kind of like what we always say, the best time to find a job is
It's
when you...
you have one and you don't need it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it's like, you know, if you got to be maintaining, just like we go to the gym.
Yes.
Yeah, we also got to be maintaining our social capital bank account, our networking fitness, if you will, right? Maintaining that muscle tone of socializing and being authentically, you know, generous and wanting to contribute to everyone, even when we don't need them.
So I know you've read this book, Daniel Priestley, Oversubscribed.
Love that book.
So he writes about Rolex. You know, there's like a waiting list of multiple years to get one. And it's not assured, it's not guaranteed.
Yes.
But they still take full page ads.
Yes.
They don't need to, they could save all that money.
Yes.
Because they know that you don't want to be in a point where you need that list you need to ask people to sign on your list. You want the list to keep on, filling up by itself.
You know, speaking of Daniel Priestley, I actually wrote about him recently on Instagram, and he wrote back to me, and I was so thrilled. And I said, "Would you come on my podcast?" And he said, "Sure, but I'm a bit busy until December. So fingers crossed, Daniel Priestley, if you're listening to this, please come on. Juliana and I would love to hear from you." But what I love about his book, Oversubscribed, his philosophy is that, you know, we've gone from that old era of pitching and like convincing and persuading people, please come and work with me. Let me prove, let me convince you.
You want inbound marketing, not outbound marketing.
Yes.
Because the same thing I tell my clients is when people look for you and it's inbound, they need you now. They're ready to sign.
Yes.
They're ready to rock and roll.
That's right.
But when you're doing outbound marketing, it's one to many. It's tiring.
Yes.
And your client is never ready.
That's right.
They're like, I'll think about it. I'll be back out maybe next year.
Yes.
So inbound marketing is best, and they self-qualify themselves.
Yes,
They
I've got the budget. I've
Yeah.
got this time. Are you free on this date?
Oh,
Can you do something?
And more importantly, they read all your posts, and
Yes.
they've chosen you.
Yes.
They've already chosen you.
Yeah,
You're
and
not
that-
begging them to choose you. So you want to be top of category.
Yes.
Because then you get the first picks, and then those that you don't want, get kind of tossed down to the second and third in the category.
So tell me a little bit more about how do you become top of category? What are the key factors?
Oh, I wish I knew, because then I'll be the top of my category.
I think you're pretty much up there, Jules.
I guess Crystal is like, first of all, when it's very simple, right? And it's all in the mind, right? So when they think of a science communicator, they must think of me first. I hope in a good way, but in a good, bad, or ugly way, they will think of me first. That's what you when you're top of category. So for a very long time, maybe for social media and TikTok, you would think of Gary Vee, Simon Sinek, top of category for a lot of the leadership coaching, globally. Tony Robbins for motivational,
Absolutely.
especially for entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So for me, it would probably be science communication, maybe
Yes.
a little bit now of LinkedIn and B2B communications.
Yes.
I think I did so by being rather consistent. So I kind of show up a few times a week. I don't ramble.
Yes.
I don't, have a stream of consciousness of whatever pops in my mind at any time of the day. I'm not a commentator on, inflation. Now I'm talking about, the war and then the presidency. And unless I have something valuable to add to the conversation, I stick to my own lane. I play my own game.
Yeah, so every piece of content you're consistently create, it's amplifying how people think of you as Juliana, science communicator.
Right.
And then, but I also see that you have some related pillars of content as well, right? So
Yes, when I think of coaching, I have my clients fall into two camps. Actually, all of us do. The first camp is people who find it very difficult to find anything to write about.
Yes.
Have you met people like
Yes.
that? They'll say, I don't know
I don't know what
write.
to say.
Yeah, I've got nothing to write about.
Yes.
So that's camp one, okay? Bless their heart, they actually have a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
Just need to unlock it.
yes,
Camp two is the stream of consciousness camp.
Yes.
What I ate for dinner.
guilty. Guilty as charged.
I think IG stories are different.
Yes.
You that's perfectly fine, IG stories.
Yes.
And then the kind where, how many kilometers I ran.
Yes.
Photo
yeah,
of the
yeah.
circuit.
Yes.
The other one is, kind of Dalai Lama quotes,
Yes.
Adam Grant quotes, memes of
Yes,
cats.
yes.
That's the other camp. So to stay very, I think both diametrically opposite camps can be solved by one solution,
Yes.
which is what I call the editorial content framework,
Oh, wow.
or maybe editorial calendar. Some people like to call it.
Yes.
So I create some pillars. You might have used it already for what you are known for, maybe 4 to 5.
Yes.
And then you write all the posts that you are going to come up with for each category.
So what are your categories?
I want to do it for you, perhaps.
For me?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I really know what
Oh
your
my
categories.
God.
Yeah.
Free coaching.
Yeah. So your framework will 4 to 5 pillars. Probably the first one I resonate with is women empowerment. I feel that you do a very good job of making me feel like, I want to do more as a woman. Next, I think it would be, I love your entrepreneurship journey. So there's this whole Forrest Wolf entrepreneur CEO journey, which is not the same as women empowerment.
Yes.
And then third would be your domain expertise.
Uh-huh.
So the actual, how the difficult conversations,
Yep.
leadership coaching and so on. And then fourth would be kind of social stuff like family, travels, wellness, Zaza, your kids. And then I don't know, maybe the fifth one could be kind of a little bit special to Crystal, maybe like even an Aloysius category.
That is the category I'm most fearful of, because when I meet people, the first thing they say is, when's the next Aloysius video coming out? And I get very stressed.
So you see what I mean? So there
Yes.
are categories, and then if you kind of put a post on each, you have 5 by 5, you have 25 posts.
Wow, that's
And that's
a
half a
lot.
year,
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
26
wow.
weeks a year.
We have been around on LinkedIn for a long time. We've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I want you to share with me, like, what are your yucks and what are your yums on LinkedIn?
Oh my, are you sure you want to go there, Crystal?
Yes. Just give me a flavor because it's so personal,
Okay,
right?
let's start with the good.
Yes.
Okay, maybe you can chime in what you think is good, but for me, it's anything good is someone sharing about their own journey.
Yes.
Either a career transition,
Yeah.
Rags to riches,
Yes.
failure to success.
Yes.
Something that really inspires me and gives me like good juju.
Yes.
The kind of inspiration to do something like they did. So for me, someone like Sahil Bloom, I really like because I think I learn at least one thing from him a week.
Yes.
And when I read his post, I know before I even start that he's going to make my life better, not worse.
I love Chris Do because
I love Chris Do too.
Yeah, he's very informative. He's a marketing expert and he does visually very compelling carousels that are really easy for me to like learn new things on. And I actually also really love insider tips. So like if somebody is sharing like a perspective, like, I've been working and here's my life behind the scenes sort of thing, or, here's what you don't know as an insider. These are 3 things you should always do. Like, as a restaurant insider, never order fish on a Monday, whatever. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or just a very different take on something you've heard before.
Yes.
I don't want to see someone who's just making an opinion.
Yes.
He has to value add. He has to change the narrative a little bit.
Agree. And I love people who are spunky and have a personality and are not afraid to be themselves. In the era of ChatGPT, where a lot of content sounds very samey, I like to read and hear from people who have a distinctive voice.
Right. That's something you can even just, the moment you see their post, it's very unique to them.
Exactly. Now, coming back to
the bad.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to use the word humble bragging, there are lots of humble
gagging
posts.
Oh, wait, we must tell them about how this humble gagging ended up.
So I was texting Crystal about talking about humble braggers today.
Yes.
And I think my autocorrect changed it to humble gaggers. And then Crystal said, I think they should be renamed humble gaggers.
Yeah, because it's
us
like,
to gag.
it causes us to
Yeah.
Yeah. So define humble gagging or bragging.
So the problem with humble gaggers and braggers, sorry, meant to say braggers. I don't think in many cases they are aware of it. Did it occur to you that they are actually, good human beings trying to share about an award they received or a new person they met? I think it's just for a lack of maybe self-awareness or empathy for the reader and how to actually frame it. So it often looks quite cheesy at the end of it.
Yes.
And they somehow always start with, I'm humbled or I'm delighted to announce fill in the blanks. So it's always that kind of template.
But then how do we, I've received an award. How could I talk about that?
So I guess I teach some of my clients how to. Should I share some of my dark secrets?
Yes, please do. I want to learn.
So you can humble brag without bragging. You can share something good about yourself.
Yes.
Isn't that ultimately a lot of times why we use LinkedIn for?
Yes.
To announce a new job, promotion,
Yes.
winning an award, industry
Yes.
panel, I don't know, meeting
Sure.
someone famous.
Yes.
Maybe joining a board.
Yes.
Right? There is a famous trust equation by David Meister, which is credibility, reliability, and intimacy over self-orientation.
Yes.
Just to make things simple, the more self-oriented you are, the less people trust you.
Yes.
The less self-oriented you are, the more people will trust you.
It's kind of like that saying, like, you shouldn't be the hero. Your audience should be the hero, as in,
Yes.
do you know what I mean? So like for me, like even if I'm receiving an award or something, I try to kind of like frame the post as much as possible in a, here's something that was interesting from the panel discussion.
Very good.
That you can take away.
So that's exactly what I do. So that's precisely what I tell my coaches to. So if you're on the panel, maybe the first instinct shouldn't be, I'm so proud to be on the panel, this is what I said.
Yeah.
More like, I'm so delighted to be on the panel with these folks, and this is what they said.
Yes.
So we change the orientation around. It's not always about us.
Yes.
So just to give you a simple example, if I got a new job or got promoted,
Yes.
the first thing isn't, I got promoted, good on me. It's more like, I want to thank these 3 people
Yes.
who helped me get here.
Yes.
My mentor, my boss, my supervisor.
Oh, I love that.
So it's not about me, but it's about me.
Yes.
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 And then you get people on your side because who wouldn't agree that it's a good idea to thank your mentor?
I really have to learn from you so much on that because that was my biggest challenge. When I started off, I did a lot of humble gagging. I did. I was a bit like, and it's the worst. It's like I talked about myself so much. And then I went back and I realized that, oh, wow, every time like I make myself the hero of the story, like, look at me, look at I'm not actually contributing any value to the ecosystem.
Or think about it, Crystal.
Yeah.
I think what we don't want is people to wish that we fail.
Yeah.
So I think what we could do is end up inducing jealousy. I mean, people will get jealous no matter
Yes.
whenever you get a little bit of success.
Right.
But the last thing is to make people more jealous.
Right. Would you say there are times like Snoop Dogg, I want to thank myself. Do you think there's a place
I
and
love Snoop
time
Dogg.
for like, I want to thank myself and like, I'm just going to have this moment. Let me have it.
I think well, only first of all, Snoop Dogg can say that, and we still love him. I think it's a bit dangerous if we don't do it with finesse.
Yes.
So, for example, if you had a charity and I joined the board,
Yep.
I could have simply said, again, good on me. I'm Snoop Dogg. I'm so good. I am now invited into a board of a charity.
Yes.
It goes against the whole idea, which is to be generous with my time. So I think I would instead turn the orientation away to you, Crystal, and I said, I'm very glad to hear that my friend has a new charity and is to do this, and I felt I could do a little bit more than give some money. I wanted to help with the governance or to help with the strategy and the social media, and then I'll invite all my followers. Why don't you join us? This is what the charity does. This is why Crystal did it and started it. If you have $10, you could also join me and support.
Yeah.
So you turn the story away from you and galvanize the support of everyone
Yes.
for Crystal.
Wow, I love that.
So you kind of like Tai Chi away the tension.
Yes. I often say, when I'm teaching growth mindset, like it's about moving from ecosystem to
Yes.
ecosystem.
Oh, I love
thinking.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I'll use that.
Okay, good.
From ego to ecosystem.
Yes, absolutely. So, which brings me to my next question. You talk about abundance mindset a lot. Tell me a little bit more about this.
So I think this is a very good position and good place to say how much I've benefited from you, Crystal. You know that. I've been trained by you for many years. You've
No, not formally, but
you've so so graciously taught 150 women at my women's summit. You've come on my podcast before. A lot of my mindset has also been shaped by what you and Greg taught us. But if you want to talk about why I write about the abundance mindset and also the scarcity mindset these days is for a very long time, maybe even from the start of the pandemic and while I was running my business, I was surrounded by many scarcity thinkers. So what does scarcity imply? They are, they're playing a zero-sum game. I win, you lose.
yes,
You win, I lose.
yes,
To win, I need to kill you, or I need you to fail.
Yes.
So I was surrounded by scarcity thinkers, and it made me very anxious, very angry and frustrated because this is not what I wanted to deal with. I didn't want to go to bed worrying and wake up worrying. I wanted to be liberated. And I didn't know what it was. I couldn't even verbalize it. And then over time, I read about this and learned about the abundance mindset, which is basically where you believe that there is an infinite number of resources
Yes.
for me and you. If you and I play the scarcity game, the red ocean strategy, we kill each other,
Yes.
then we could end up with crumbs of a pie. But you and I actually can collaborate as we are today
yes,
to increase and enlarge the size of the pie.
yes.
I'm 40 this year, just turned 40. This is the next 40 years. This is the game I want to play.
The infinite game.
Yeah, Simon Sinek, the infinite game versus the finite games.
Of course. And I can really see it like when you were going through recently, you called me and won't talk about what it was about, but you had some personal challenges and we were talking through that. And I love that moment where you said, I'm going to use this as an opportunity. In fact, you said to me, I'm deeply grateful for this crisis that I went through because it allowed me to reshape my identity. And I love that.
Yeah, and actually became more confident because I think there's a point when you go through some struggles, you kind of self-censor.
Yes.
You dim your own light.
Yes.
You feel like a fraud. And actually, I realized why am I ashamed? I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
By the way, on that note, I want to thank you. If anyone leaves a room with Neil deGrasse Tyson to take my call and text me back, as a scientist, of course, we all know Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes.
So
I was at
there
a
are no
concert
words.
with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Juliana
Texted you.
texted me and she's like, I'm dealing with something. I could use your advice. And I'm like, I'm stepping out to call you now.
Yeah, say no more, Crystal. That's a great friend.
Thank you. Well, let's take it to a personal level now. I had so many people wrote in and wanted to hear about specifically more about your personal life. And you and I both really enjoy reading about successful people's daily routines, like how do they do it? Like what are some of like the small levers of success? How do they set up their day? Can you take me through like a day in the life of Juliana?
You know, Crystal, on LinkedIn, if you talk a lot about productivity and the hustle, it doesn't look good anymore. But the fact remains that you and I are very busy.
Yes.
And if you are not productive and efficient, you can never get through the day.
Well, I think productivity is part of self-care.
It is self-care.
If we get more shit done, right, then we get more time to ourselves.
And productivity actually also includes boundaries too.
Absolutely.
Because if you know what is productive for you, you also know what is not productive for you.
Absolutely.
So, you know, without going into very much detail, I just want to tell you like the basic fundamentals for my success. First of all, is sleep.
Okay.
If I don't sleep, the next day is finished.
Okay.
I don't get anything
What time
done.
do you sleep?
So with my kids, I try to put them to bed and we sleep by 10.
Okay.
I'm an early sleeper. If I sleep late, then the next day is ruined.
Wow,
So
10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10:30. I've nights that I sleep past midnight, and then the next day I'm not as successful. And then the next thing is, for me, in the morning I wake up, I have my cup of coffee. So I'm remote.
Yes.
I've taken my company remote, so
Yes.
everything is from my living room.
Yes.
I have a cup of coffee, and
What kind of coffee?
I'm espresso. You know, I make my own latte.
So you have your own espresso machine.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Lim-Lange,
Yes.
perfect. Brad Pitt's there, ambassador. So what I do is I have a cup of coffee, I make my cup of coffee, I put my kids on the bus.
Yes.
I have a helper, so that is a life, saver.
Yes.
I must always acknowledge my helper's support. And after the kids are on the bus at 6:30, I get a lot of peace and quiet. My husband is, either awake or in the background somewhere. And I clear all the basic things like, in my case, I put something about LinkedIn. I may clear some email, but I'm planning for the day.
Do you actually get straight to work, or do you have any sort of ritual between the coffee and when you start? Or is there like certain priorities that you need to like set down before you get into it?
Yeah, so, I guess I can get into very granular detail, but
I love the details.
Oh, okay. So if I know I'm going to the gym that day, I haven't got to exercise, but I will actually be in my gym gear already.
Yes.
When I wake up, you know. So for me is, I don't like to be reactive. So the last thing I want is to immediately open up and tackle my email.
Yes.
I like to see all the things in front of me that I need to do.
Yes.
And kind of have a plan. I have these, yellow sticky notes, but not the small one, the very big one, like this size.
Yes.
And there's lines on it. My kids know me. I'm strange. They make fun of my post-its.
Wow.
So there's a giant yellow post-it with lines.
You're the third woman who tells me that they use
You wanna see it?
post-its. Yes, I want to see. Yeah, Rachel also talked to me about post-its.
Can anyone see it? These are yellow,
Yes.
massively yellow giant
my God,
post-its.
that's so cute.
And then I have a 1 to 10 or 20 or whatever many things I need to do that day. But I also make a point, I teach my teammates not to have, too many things.
Yes.
So your most important task, your MIT, you can have maybe 1 to 3.
Like this is really important because I think
I'm planning.
so many people go straight into, wake up and then get straight into answering emails chronologically based on how they come in.
So the challenge is when you do that, you make someone else's priorities yours.
That's right.
Because you're living by someone's needs. They're emailing you because they need something from you.
Yes.
But theoretically speaking, that may not be your priority. Then I have my company's town hall. We meet on Zoom at 9 a.m.
Every day.
We used to meet every day.
Wow.
Now we meet on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's very short. Usually I have a team leader playing a game.
Yes.
Thumbs up if you do this. Heart if you do that.
And you set that culture from the beginning.
They love it. They play that game, and then somebody has to explain why they chose that. On Monday, we have every team. We have 5 teams. So every team leader will talk about what are their goals for the week. Because, Krista, I live my life through goals. I learned that from this book called Traction. So an entrepreneur organization, you need big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yes,
BHAGs, 10 years, okay?
Yes.
Then you go to 3-year plans, 3-year goals.
Yes.
1-year goals.
Yes.
And then in every quarter, you have a quarterly goal. And then for the week, they have one goal.
Okay.
So on Monday, they announce their goals for the week. And
Each
then
person?
every team leader.
Every team leader.
So every
okay.
team has a goal because I like to work in teams.
Okay.
I don't like them to feel that they are individual players.
Okay.
I like team players. So on Friday, we then meet again at Town Hall at 9 a.m. to talk about our wins. Notice, Crystal, when I said wins, not what we've done that week. So I could have done 20 things and have no wins.
Right.
A win is more emotional.
Right.
It's more like, yay, we did it. And it could be really, really small.
So many companies have a culture that if you hit the target, we're just going to move the target.
So I have also this hashtag group in Slack. I don't know if you've heard of this. The Office star John Krasinski.
Yes,
he had
yes.
Some Good News.
Oh, okay, yes.
A YouTube channel. So I have this hashtag Some Good News.
Yes.
When anyone has good news, and it could be anything, right? I have a new dog, or I've blah blah blah. They will put it in Some Good News.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Love
so
it.
it gives a culture of kind of we cheer for each other. So that's how we vibe as a company. I have 18 people on my team right now. So plus me 19. So I feel the importance of us to like sync, to pulse, have the cadence as a team.
And you made a decision, because I know, Jules, you had a big, huge office before.
Kind of a nice office.
A really nice
It cost me
office.
like 30,000 to renovate.
I know, because we were both having this conversation as entrepreneurs, like how to rent, does it make sense, and all of that. And then you made the decision to go
remote, right?
It
was the best decision ever, Crystal.
Tell me why.
First of all, I don't have to pay all that rent and utilities and Wi-Fi. But I think it was almost like a weight off my shoulders because I now know that I don't have all this baggage, because we have lots and lots of books and printed stuff.
Yes.
We pulped some of it, recycled it, and some we gave away. But now I have very much fewer things. If you are a minimalist like me,
Yes.
I'm not sure if you are, but I am definitely a minimalist.
Yes.
The less is more.
Yes.
I feel liberated. I feel free.
You really not just declutter physically, but also emotionally, spiritually,
No,
mentally,
I
right?
literally decluttered. All these things we sold or gave away.
Yeah. How does your workday end?
I didn't mention, but I would like to share that I exercise 3 times a week. So this is a non-negotiable for me.
Yes.
3 is a minimum.
What do you do?
I go to the gym, I swim, I run. I had a doctor who once told me, like, Juliana, when you exercise, you can cause yourself more stress. Like cortisol release, because if you're doing like bench pressing or doing the HIIT hit,
Yes.
you can actually make yourself more stressed. So my kind of exercise is less for like physique or stamina. It's more for mental health. Often exercise is a way for me to get away from it.
Yes, me too.
So all I want to do is repetitive, calm exercises like rowing, running on a treadmill, or bicycling.
So interesting.
Or swimming laps. And when I do that, sometimes I hear a podcast. I love certain podcasts, and I get ideas.
Yeah, me too.
So then you write it down on your, Trello, Asana, Notion.
Yes.
So for me, it's a virtuous cycle.
Yes.
I get calmer, more relaxed and happier. I get ideas, and I learn from a great podcast.
Absolutely.
So it's like a win-win-win. Oh, and I escape my work and emails and stuff.
What's your favorite podcast to listen to?
Too many, but currently I'm very big on Simon Sinek's A Little Bit of Optimism.
Okay, I've got to check that out. I haven't gotten into it.
he's my favorite. I love Tim Ferriss. I love all of them. Brene Brown.
Guilty confession, Jules. When I'm having a facial or a massage, I
Yes.
literally will tell the spa attendant, I will say, do you mind if I turn off the music? And I will put on a podcast.
Yes.
So that I can actually listen to something. Okay, what else do we need to know about your life?
So exercise 3 times a week, non-negotiable, very calm and meditative kind of work. Next, at 6 p.m. is usually when I knock off. So how I do it in my company is the team will send an email to their own team leaders. I'm not involved in this circuit. They will say, I'm out. The email can just be, I'm out. Why we do this is actually not to check out, because you could just, kind of schedule it. We wouldn't know, right?
Yes.
It's a form of like, it's an action where I'm leaving the office.
I'm winding down.
So sometimes people say, I've read books that people say you should just turn off your lights and your desk and have a ritual.
Yes.
And say, I'm leaving the office.
Greg does that. He had a cloth over his computer.
Yes.
During COVID
It's
times.
a ritual.
Yeah, it's a ritual. And he will put the cloth over his screen, and that's it.
Yeah. You can even say out loud, I'm going out from my office. I'm leaving work.
Love it.
Because it's to tell your subconscious that,
Yes.
I'm done.
Yes.
And then you can play now.
It's boundaries.
It's a boundary.
Yeah. Love
Then
it.
6 o'clock is kind of my number. And once I'm there, I'm having dinner, playing with my kids, putting them to bed, playing chess with my son. He loves chess, or watching a movie with the kids. We just finished 6 episodes of all the Jaws series. There's 6 of them, and
Wow.
6 of Jurassic Parks and World. So we did 12 of those in a row.
And I really admire how close you are with your children. I see them on IG all the time. You put a lot of stuff on close friend stories.
Yes. Only you get to see them, Crystal.
I know. I feel so privileged. And you know how I had my kids so many years ago that I kind of like almost forget what it was like to be in that very active stage. But I remember quite clearly I struggled a lot with that mummy guilt.
Yes. Mummy guilt is real.
How do you deal with that?
I got into this point where my company was growing bigger and bigger, and I was hiring just because I needed to hire, and I wasn't actually enjoying myself. And part of that was also the fact that I couldn't spend enough time with my kids. Ironically, despite being at home, I'll be stuck in my home office from Zoom calls from morning to night.
Yep.
So I have now a huge radical shift in the way I do my work. So I kind of batch things up. I do many of my calls in a row, and there are days where I'm just wide open. And one thing I love to do, Crystal, is I love when my daughter or son comes off the bus, 1:32 p.m., I take them with me to Vivo City. We have, we go to Awfully Chocolate, we go to Tiong Bahru Bakery, and we just like hang out.
Oh, you're my dream mom.
Yeah, we go to, the Harbourfront Library or Popular, we buy a book and she just sits with me. I call her, my daughter, often my BFF in the office, my office buddy.
I love that. Those little rituals are so important for children, right?
Yeah, so I think as part of the kind of the shift, I'm not trying to grow my company anymore. I didn't know that I didn't want to grow it until I realized, who am I growing it for?
Yes.
It wasn't serving me.
Yes.
So my new plan is to have work-life balance, run it as a lifestyle business. Of course, I'm competitive.
Yes.
I like to do well, serve my clients well. I need balance.
Yes.
And I want to be there for my son and daughter, especially as she gets older and she goes to a PSLE soon.
That word balance is so important. And I think you've achieved a lot of that dynamic balance by being very, very self-aware and by constantly checking in, is this working for me?
So if you look at my diary, which is private, you will see a period where I was just very, very, very distraught. I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. I'm not happy. Is it okay if a CEO is not happy? Because we have to put on a mirage,
The
right?
game face.
Image, like game face,
Yes.
Everything is good, guys, I'm in charge.
Yes.
So I'm not feeling great. And I had to admit to myself, this wasn't working for me. And now I look at my diary, I'm like, I'm really looking forward to the weekend. Next week sounds great. I see a much happier version of me.
There's only one thing that I'm kind of missing at the moment. Husband.
Yes.
Yeah, where's the husband time fit in?
Okay, so you're talking about yet another busy person. The good news is we're both going to Dubai next week.
Yes.
To a conference. So, okay, this is how we do things. We find a conference that someone else is going for, and we go for, because I'm remote now.
Yes.
He's not entirely remote.
Yes.
I can work from anywhere in the world. So as long as we have support at home, we do conferences or kind of work leisure trips overseas.
Yes.
So the next one is next week to Dubai.
Oh, so
my first time in Dubai.
That's where you stack, like Greg and I do similar thing where it's like you stack a work trip.
Yes.
And then you have some time for a couple.
So he was telling me, he's going to Lisbon in November for a conference. We are, the conference kind of sector. And then I was thinking, maybe I could go. I've never been to Lisbon. So that's one of those, that's how we do it. We have date night on Saturday. And I guess there is a bit of a give and take, unfortunately. When you have young children,
yes,
it's really a tag team. It's you catch, I catch,
Agree.
you catch, I catch.
Agree.
Yeah.
I feel like during those years, it was like me and my partner were like back to back, like, with a gun, like this, back to back. And like, I cover this side, you cover that side. And then sometimes we had to remember to turn towards each other.
I'm afraid so. There is a little bit of give and take, like I said. If I can say finding the balance, I wouldn't say I have, but barely. We are barely, I think it's a work in progress.
All of us. Jules, actually, I must say that you are the person that inspired me to grow my business.
Oh, yay.
It's true.
So happy.
When I first met you, we were sitting in 1880.
Yes,
yeah, we're having this conversation, and you had a big team, a very big team, big office and all of that. And you were saying to me like, oh, why don't you scale? I remember that conversation.
But you had scaled before in the previous position,
I had, yes.
to 50.
Yes.
So you were kind of
scarred.
Yeah, you were kind of like I want to be small for a bit.
I want to let me enjoy being small for a bit. But, over time, like, you kept on encouraging me gently.
Yeah.
Like, what if you do this, what if you do that? And then, like, I'm in a really blessed position now where now I have certain programs, certain revenue streams that do not involve me at all.
Yes.
That I can go for holiday and, like, it's still, like, the business still more or less runs. And Crystal is not the business.
You're not the only show
the
person,
only thing.
the
And
showman.
I learned that from you. Yeah. So I want to appreciate that. So, in that spirit of that, I also want to make sure that like more people can learn from you, just like I learned from you. So tell me about like how can we all learn from you?
So I do one-on-one coaching and corporate client training, but recently I've written this kind of small little ebook and video course.
Okay, don't minimize yourself.
Yeah,
I saw Kishore Mahbubani
Yes, he did.
post about your so-called small little book and how it changed his life.
Oh,
So-
I helped Prof. Kishore with a little bit of his LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
So now he has, 27,000 followers. So I'm very
Yes.
proud of his progress. When I started with him, it was 1K.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you have a new book coming out.
Yes.
And where can we find it?
Okay, so I host it on Kajabi, which is a platform. You can get it from my website, julianachan.org. So it's called the LinkedIn Success Mindset. I say so because I think all of us can be successful on LinkedIn.
Yes.
50% is mindset, 50% is taking action. So if I can convince you that everyone has a superpower and value to share on LinkedIn, then show you how to do it, then I think we have won the battle. I package it as an ebook, so you can download the PDF and read it if you are the kind of person who likes to read visually. And then if you prefer your auditory learner, then I have a video version where I literally talk about it chapter to
Yay.
chapter.
That's so
both can be
exciting.
found in the course.
I can't wait. And I already started actually. I've already read some of it. And I must say it
I
is
need an endorsement from you too, Crystal.
for sure.
I'm gonna ask you in your podcast.
Anytime. Yeah, you're the queen of LinkedIn. But I really want to thank you so much for being my career mentor and guide and being the catalyst that allowed Forest Wolf to become what it is today. Yeah, and thanks for your big, generous heart and for our friendship.
Thank you so much, Crystal, for having me. It's a great pleasure to be on Comfort and Growth. I feel so privileged. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, share on social media, our podcast, and leave us a rating because it really, really matters. And of course, check out Jules's book, the one that is endorsed not just by me, by Professor Kishore Mahbubani. Okay, so see you next time on Comfort and Growth. Bye.
Bye.